Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to Socialist Sunday. 2 weeks ago, we had Lubna come along and explain to us that she was taking a motion to the Green Spring Conference, uh, Zionism is Racism. And we've asked her to come back because we had several requests for her to come back and explain precisely what went on at the Green Conference. Good to see you this afternoon, Lubna. Thanks for coming along, and over to you.
Well, I think the only question really to ask is what did happen at that conference. Unfortunately, left a lot of people rather dismayed to say the least. And I think evidence more than anything, precisely. I mean, like a genocide isn't enough evidence of what we're fighting against, and the racism of the racist ideology that can only exist on the subjugation of our people, and now in practice is escalating its wider regional attacks and the erasure of our people, which is what this motion has been brought forward for, to identify the ideology, the settler colonialist ideology of Zionism and its racist practices. There's been an overwhelming amount of support from members in the party. It received a record-breaking number of co-proposers. As a result, the Zionists have launched into attack. Unfortunately, there's a minority of vocal Zionists within the party who have, first it was brought, request for legal advice on a motion. We have had legal input already into the motion, so we're very confident that with regard to a legal challenge, we'd have no problems. And this is a motion that calls to recognise equal rights for all. So, of course, the only ones that would have a problem with it, and none other than those protecting their racist ideology, and then, of course, people who didn't understand what happened in that conference exhibited the lows. I mean, in the run-up to conference, I don't know if you're all up to date on what had happened, reported to counter-terror police, every right-wing rag, the same ones that supported the Nazi Germans, I must add. Then attacks from the Israeli embassy, the British Board of Deputy of Jews, the Israeli minister, Starmer's advisor on anti-Semitism, and the list goes on. There's been threats, death threats, even at the deputy of the party, Mohsin. And, this is what we'd had to contend with to the build-up of that, and lots of disinformation that the Zionists have been putting out in an attempt to derail it in advance. Now, in spite of that, a number of people who had turned up to conference, there was a big split because you had the Together Alliance march on the same day, and the party were aware that that march was taking place, and that would split numbers. And of course, this is an important conference that everybody wanted to be at. A lot of people then had to make, we were encouraging people, okay, we were doing the marches while we encouraged people to do the marches. This is something that can change the face of British politics and can make an impact. So we encourage anyone in the Greens to come and join us at that conference. And it began at 9. It was technical tests at first. Now, from the beginning, there were all sorts of technical issues took place. Then there was an attempt to go through a vote, which turned out anybody from out of the party could attend and vote via Zoom. So someone did raise that to the attention of the chair, that people were able to access that via Zoom who are not even in the party to vote. So then they had to go and navigate their way, wasted hours of the beginning of the conference with technical issues, trying to address that matter. Then we had an amendment to the Standing Order Committee put forward by opposition to the motion, requesting that it be ruled out of order. That went to a vote and was overwhelmingly supported to reject that amendment for the motion to continue and be heard. And I have to add here, there is a process that the motion has to go through already to get through the Standing Orders Committee and be heard at a conference. Our motion was already ruled in order, and had it not fulfilled all the stages of their criteria, would not have been put forward to motion. So that included things like having consultations with the other liberation groups in the party. We fully consulted, and that included with the Jewish Green members. And we had to make the point that irrespective of agreement on certain things, we still fulfilled the criteria. That was done. And we had invited them to meetings as well. And our Jewish allies who had input in our motion also responded to any concerns they had, but yet we were still pursued in the conference further. We had a motion to prioritize the motion to be heard. Now, comrades that put that amendment to SOC to prioritize it decided, okay, we'll go for, we'll ask for it to be put in third place rather than jumping right to the top and upsetting some others. But it's to ensure that it got heard, because we knew that there were delay tactics and all sorts of stunts being pulled to derail it and ensure it wasn't heard. So the conference democratically voted in order to prioritize it. Yet then there were later attacks against that. Oh, you fast track. Hang on a minute. This is a part of the process that was exercised and democratically voted by the people in conference. Then during the proceedings, and this just went on until literally 6 o'clock. It was supposed to end at 5:30, and there was just non-stop attempts from delaying other people's motions in advance. The ordering of motions were juggled, and suddenly C motions were brought forward, and people like, what's going on now? Isn't this supposed to be heard? And there were, I think, 7 votes of no confidence that kept being thrown at the chairs, just literally to bypass, to stretch out the time and ensure, again, it's not heard. And the attacks at other people's motions, coming in and challenging a motion, like, for example, on something to do with dogs, collars and muzzle, like, what a lot of people, everyone in that conference just thought, right, there's a clear attempt. This is just like a clear filibustering, and people were really angry. And then nearer to the time of our motion being heard, it had dragged it out to the point. There wasn't long left, and then people called for an extension. The maximum extension of time you can request in conference is 15 minutes. So again, that was requested, and in 15 minutes, I mean, you wouldn't even get past the first amendment. They added 15 amendments to the motion up in advance of it. Somehow another 2-3 slipped through past the deadline time for submitting these. Those were ruled out of order, but everyone was, where did they come from anyway? Now, most of them were ruled out of order. A main section of our definition text was also moved to the background paper. 4 of those, I believe, were allowed. The only friendly amendment put forward was rejected. So even for those amendments alone would have taken more than that time. And in spite of that, there's still, here we go, another vote of no confidence comes out. So, and it got to the stage where literally there was just 2 minutes left, just enough for me to introduce the motion and give my 2-minute speech in support of the motion. And it was difficult, because you knew that it wasn't going to be heard, but the clear majority in conference were there to support it. The numbers were there, all the numbers that voted in favor of it being heard, to reject it being ruled out of order, to support the extension of time and the prioritization. It spoke. The people spoke. So whether or not we had the official stamp of it passing through the party, the people, that they were there for that motion, and the numbers said that all. So it was victorious in that respect. And also in respect of the fact that those that maybe weren't so well acquainted with, the typical Zionist tactics that were played, everybody saw it. That was evidenced by everybody. It was indisputable. And a lot of people were extremely dismayed, angry, upset, and they still are. Lots of people are still struggling to get over what happened in that conference. A whole day of that, everyone was literally on the edge of their seats. And there's been a lot of complaints that have been flooded in. I think the worst part of that was, I think the criticism that had been put forward about those who filibustered. One of them, I don't know if it was to say, oh, look, well, the leadership are with us, had posted something claiming that the MPs and Kaledenia were actually going to speak against the motion, which was probably the most disappointing aspect. And there were complaints made against that. And my response was quite simply, the point of this is one for the people. The party have brought in a lot of people across the movement because of their position on Palestine. And here it's now about, confronting, this is about expressing their integrity. Where do you really stand now when a motion is finally brought forward and we're told it's down to the Palestinians to decide? And when we speak, You know, this is what we're encouraging people, irrespective of that. There is supposed to be a democratic member-led process. I mean, there's obviously holes and problems in those mechanisms that need addressing. But the point of the matter is, it's irrespective of what any leadership thinks, what any MP thinks, this is one for the people to decide and put that forward. If there is truly to be any democracy in this party, addressing the issues with those mechanisms is important. But it's also equally important for the people now to rise and speak and confront this. So in the meantime, in the run up to the next one, which will be in autumn, we're preparing workshops, documents, lots of different literature for people to understand. Those that haven't witnessed enough to understand what Zionism is, or they're confused because of the conflations, you know, we'll amend that. And the motion does that. It's pretty self-explanatory, and it does define, you know, the difference between Zionism and Judaism to prevent the conflations that have continued to be made. And it protects our Jewish allies, those who confront the racist state of Israel and do not wish to associate themselves with a genocidal state, who do recognize the rights of Palestinian people. They are standing with us, and this protects them as well. Because there's a lot of problems with the weaponizations of anti-Semitism, and the conflations cause so much confusion, and people are more afraid of being slapped with an anti-Semite stick on spurious grounds than to stand up and speak against this injustice. So it's important that people are educated so that they're clear. And the definition defines that with such clarity. And here we're doing that with our Jewish allies together, confronting this. And we'll continue to confront it. And a lot of people now, unfortunately, there is a big witch hunt. It is literally like a repeat of, it's like Labour 2.0 in the Corbyn era. And the attacks from the right-wing press as well, the smearing, demonizing, conflations again. And we're saying this, we cannot have them, we cannot afford another repeat of what happened then. People need to stand up and go on the offensive and confront it head on, and hopefully equipping them with the knowledge that is necessary and vital in order to be able to combat this will help. But we have to stand by each other and protect our comrades. So this is the position that we're taking, both as grassroots activists and within the Greens for Palestine group, and we're working with other comrades in there to do the same and confront this finally, because it's gone on far too long and we cannot afford for that to happen, especially now at a stage where we're witnessing our erasure in live stream and a greater threat to world peace. So this is where we're left. It's now having to build. Sadly, that's another 6 months, and in that time, how many more of us are going to be slaughtered? You know, that's but it's one that nonetheless, however long it takes, we need to address. And between now and then, and you've probably seen this popping up everywhere now, people are talking about it. The whole idea of this motion was to confront this narrative, for people to discuss it, for a solution. Here is the solution. When you acknowledge that this is a racist apartheid state committing genocide, and we're calling within the motion points for establishment of a single Palestinian state where there are equal rights for all. And as we have seen, this will never exist under Israel's boot, which can only exist on the subjugation of our people. It calls for accountability, for reparations, for our right to return to our homeland. It calls for the deprescription of activists who are here confronting a racist genocidal war machine, you know. And you know the whole historical element, like everyone who opposes their oppressors, their colonizers, has infamously been labeled as a terrorist. And we would like to see that repealed at some point. We haven't included that in that motion, but I'm proud to say that, you know, Unite Glab community have actually taken that step and added that to the motion. And hopefully this can be shared with others to address these really important and vital issues, which could not be more urgent to address now. And it's just sad that this has taken so long. The UN previously acknowledged that Zionism was a form of racism and discrimination, and that was repealed to accommodate a Madrid peace conference with Israel. And of course, we've never seen peace before or since. They should bring it back. But this is our point. And this began in these political arenas here, where it was dictated on their terms to give away a land they had no right to give. And now here we are confronting it for what's left before it's late. So we're hoping that others will share this motion at their branches and unions, and it is happening. The change is beginning. the seed is planted here in the Greens, but it certainly doesn't end here. And the fact that we're sitting here even having this discussion is another victory. It's a small win, but it's a beginning, and certainly not the end.